Making headlines tonight. Deputy Prime Minister Saw Keng has instructed the capital provincial administrations to continue making sure the implementation of construction projects as well as adjusting infrastructure to be more accessible for persons with disabilities. The Minister of Justice, Kort Derit, said that the ministry has set 2022 as the year to strengthen discipline and ethics and officials in the field of justice, among those in the field to strive to perform their roles and responsibilities, and said the ministry will provide incentives and appointments to responsible positions. Joe Biden has said he would be willing to use force to defend Taiwan against Chinese aggression if needed. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky said that President Vladimir Putin was the only Russian official he was willing to meet with to discuss to end the war. And finally, Vietnam closed out a successful 31st Southeastern Games on Monday the 23rd of May with celebrations and performance in Hanoi, and handed over the flag to Cambodia to begin their campaign for the next SEA Games. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Anthony Ellis. The Minister of Interior, Deputy Prime Minister Saw Keng, has further instructed the capital provincial administrations to continue paying attention to strengthening the implementation of construction projects as well as adjusting infrastructure to be more accessible and safer to use for persons with disabilities. EAC News reporter Dashana Guchin has more details.
In a circular issued on Wednesday, 18th May, to all provincial governors, Deputy Prime Minister Saw Keng stated that the disability sector is part of the national development policy of the Royal Government of Cambodia. The policy states that the rights of persons with disabilities are protected by national and international law, entailing the protection of their rights and freedoms, the protection of their interests, the endeavor to prevent, reduce, and eliminate discrimination against persons with disabilities, and the affirmed equal rights of persons with disabilities and non-persons with disabilities in social activities. The Deputy Prime Minister further instructed the Capital Provincial Administration to continue paying attention to strengthening the implementation of construction projects and to inspect the construction of public physical infrastructure, including administrative buildings, schools, educational institutions, hospitals, health centers, roads, sidewalks, public parks, bathrooms, parking lots, and more, to ensure they are accessible for persons with disabilities. The Deputy Prime Minister stated, "Incorporate physical infrastructure to serve and facilitate people with all kinds of disabilities to be able to move in and out easily and safely and without hindrance. This must be implemented in accordance with the standards and techniques defined by the Interministerial Prakas and without obstacles, and must be in accordance with the technical standards set by the Interministerial Prakas No. 248 Soy Proc dated 28 November 2018 on the implementation of physical infrastructure techniques to facilitate persons with disabilities by the Ministry of Land Management, Urban Planning and Construction, and the Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation." The Secretary of State for the Ministry of Social Affairs and the Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, M. Chan Makara, stated that there are currently many changes being made in the capital and in the provinces, including the preparation of accessible roads, bathrooms, parking lots, and ramps for persons with disabilities, which the government and the private sector have taken joint action in organizing. Obviously, we can see in public places in Cambodia, gas stations, hospitals, shopping malls, there are a lot of changes that have alleviated the difficulties for persons with disabilities, he said. Currently, there are more than 690,000 persons with disabilities in Cambodia, accounting for 4.9% of the total population of more than 16 million. The Royal Government of Cambodia has set out a vision for persons with disabilities and their families to have a good quality of life and be able to fully and equally participate in society with respect for rights and dignity, as well as a disability-inclusive environment in all areas of development. The government launched Phase 1 and 2 of the National Disability Strategic Plan, establishing offices of the Disability Action Council at the national and provincial levels to serve as the coordinator and consultant on disability issues, and to be responsible for raising awareness on disability issues across the country. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
The Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces and the Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Army, Lieutenant General Hun Manet, has urged more investors from Can Tho City, Vietnam, to come to Cambodia. He has made these remarks during the meeting of the party's Central Committee member and the Chairman of the People's Committee of Can Tho in the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, Chinh Vot Chong, on Tuesday morning. The meeting was held at the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces headquarters in Phnom Penh. Can Tho's People Committee Chairman Chinh Vot Chong paid a courtesy call to Lieutenant General Hun Manet and stated that he appreciates the current development of Cambodia and shares congratulations with the country on the occasion of the 55th anniversary of the Cambodian-Vietnam diplomatic relations in 2022. He also mentioned that Can Tho City has history-friendly relations with many organisations in Cambodia, and this is a good cooperation and contributed significantly to promotion of the economic and cultural relations between people. And going forward, he hopes that this bilateral cooperation will be further strengthened and expand. In response, Lieutenant General Hun Manet mentioned the long-standing friendship between Cambodia and Vietnam and thanked the Socialist Republic of Vietnam for the past support of Cambodia. He further stated that he supports encouraging more investments from Can Tho City to come to Cambodia. Can Tho's People Committee Chairman Chinh Vot Chong also invited Lieutenant General Hun Manet to visit Can Tho City in Vietnam at a convenient time in the near future. The Ministry of Justice, Kat Rit, has said the ministry has set the 2022 as the year of strengthening the work discipline and ethics of officials in the field of justice, among those in the field who strive to perform their roles and responsibilities, and said the ministry will provide incentives and appointments to responsible positions. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has them all.
The Minister of Justice made this statement while speaking at the transfer and inauguration ceremony of the President of the Bong Khmom Provincial Court on Monday, 23rd of May. Minister Cartwright instructed all judicial officers, prosecutors, and judges to strictly implement disciplinary measures in accordance with the laws and regulations enforced to ensure justice and fairness to the people in all cases, especially during trial. He stressed that all judges and prosecutors must continue to apply the law properly and avoid the four injustices or bias, such as prejudice because of love, hatred, irresponsibility, and fear of power or more. He said, as all judges and prosecutors have taken the oath before taking office, they must continue to pay attention to the correct and strict implementation of the spirit, principles, and approach in a way that is fast, accurate, fair, and non-corrupt. It has been set up as part of a campaign to address past criminal congestion, even though the campaign has been successfully completed. The minister instructed all judges, prosecutors, and officials in the field of justice to adhere to the Prime Minister's 5 principles of mirroring, bathing, scrubbing, treatment, and surgery as a matter of principle in performing their functions and duties. He added that the tribunal at all levels must pay attention to strengthening its human resource capacity by strengthening research, organizing workshops, training courses, or programs to share new knowledge and experience to civil servants under its guidance. All judges must strive to improve the quality of writing verdicts and judgments in accordance with the rules. Dekanin, EAC News.
The Secretary of State and Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation, Chamakra, has pushed for the promotion, dissemination of further awareness raising on mental health issues to people in the community, especially for the persons with disabilities to seek timely professional treatment. He made this call when he was speaking at the opening ceremony of the minimum standard training course on the basic counselling for women and the girls victims gender-based violence and stress management on Tuesday morning. EAC News reporter Dashana Guchin has the story.
Secretary of State Makara continued to say, to help seek solutions to problems of mental health patients, providing good advice and encouragement to think positively for the continuation of daily life is a good treatment for patients' minds. He added that the best way to avoid the occurrence of mental illness is for each of us to be satisfied with what we have, to control our emotions, not feel negatively about those around us, not put pressure on oneself or one's family, and to not set too many goals in life. He said there should be a balance between work, rest, and spending enough time with family in everyone's daily life, and this sort of shift from negative to positive thinking is a factor that helps to prevent mental illness. The Secretary of State further expressed his support for the training and stressed that it was important for the Gender Mainstreaming Working Group of the Ministry of Social Affairs, as well as other relevant ministries, to learn more about good practices for counseling women and children who are victims of gender-based violence, in order to prevent, reduce, and address all issues related to violence against women and girls with disabilities. The minimum standards training for basic counseling for women and girl victims of gender-based violence and stress management is organized by the Transcultural Psychosocial Organization, sponsored by the Australian Embassy through Access, with 30 participants in total from relevant ministries and institutions. The second Secretary of the Australian Embassy, Connor Floyd, said mental health issues are often ignored or intentionally left aside, often misunderstood or underestimated, as many people still feel uncomfortable speaking about it and prefer to keep it hidden away. He said, "However, we should know that mental health issues such as anxiety and depression are affecting most of us, and in our lifetime, we are likely to face such episodes in our personal life. The purpose of this week's training is not for any of you to become an expert counselor, but rather to improve your understanding of the situation of women survivors of violence and your ability to guide them towards relevant services." Unipolar depression or major depressive disorder is a medical condition characterized by continuous feelings of sadness, a persistent lack of interest, among other symptoms. Unipolar depression can be treated through medication and oral therapy. The World Health Organization reported in 2010 that depression was one of the most common mental illnesses worldwide. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
The Undersecretary of State of Spokesman of the Ministry of Commerce, Ban Savachit, acknowledged the challenge faced by the people because of the rising fuel prices, but said that the state has helped out a lot to reduce the current price on the Cambodian market, making it so that it's not too much more than what the citizens can afford. He said that Cambodia is a country that buys oil from abroad, so the increase in fuel prices on the international stage is the main reason of the increase in the price of domestic fuel. However, Cambodia has guaranteed 2 points which are control prices and have enough to supply the citizens. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has a story.
The current fuel price in Cambodia is 5,600 riel per liter for regular gasoline and 5,400 riel per liter for diesel from 21st to 31st of May 2022. According to the announcement on the retail price of fuel at the station, the price has increased by 50 riel for regular gasoline and 400 riel for diesel compared to the old price. Speaking to EAC News by telephone on Monday 23rd of May, spokesperson Ban Savachit said that in order to keep prices from rising too high, in addition to measures taken in the past, the government has now partnered with the private sector to keep prices low and to ensure that there is enough supply for citizens as well. He said the government has also provided some subsidies in this regard, as we have seen from the beginning until now. The government has continued to subsidize the retail price of fuel with the cooperation of the private sector, which makes the price of fuel a little lower compared to increasing prices on the international stage. We generally observe that although we import the oil, the prices do not rise as much as in other countries, where we have observed it is 2 or 3 times as much. Moreover, we observe that we are at a level that we can control, and secondly, we still have oil for sale. This is an important point. The president of Independent Democracy of Informal Economy Association, Won Po, said that the problem of rising gas prices has seriously affected the lives of people, especially those working in the informal economy, which increases their expenses greatly. He urged the government to reduce taxes on gasoline and instead tax non-essential products. He said, "I do not mind the rise in prices, as the Ukraine and Russia crisis has pushed up international oil prices. For Cambodia, oil and gas prices seem to be rising the highest, and that's a problem. I think what the state can do is review the reduction of the import tax on fuel as well as the gross sales tax. If there is a fear of losing national income due to reducing taxes, the government can tax things that are not important, non-essential things that people do not use daily. I think that's what the state can do." During a meeting with more than 2,000 Cambodians in Europe on the night of Saturday, 21st of May in Davos, Switzerland, Prime Minister Hun Sen raised a new issue that the world is now facing, the Russia-Ukraine war, which has affected fuel prices and caused a potential food crisis. The Prime Minister asked about the current price of gasoline in Europe, which was more than €2 or equivalent to almost 10,000 riel per liter, a price that is much higher than in Cambodia, and said he hopes that the people in the country will be aware of these world gas prices. He added that the reason why he asked such questions is because during the current election campaign for the Commune District Council elections, there will likely be people who use rising gasoline prices in their political platform to deceive the people when the price of gasoline is actually rising almost all over the world. Dekanin, EAC News.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
US President Joe Biden said on Monday the 23rd of May he'll be willing to use force to defend Taiwan against Chinese aggression in a comment that seemed to strengthen the limits of the ambitious US policy towards the South Ruled Island.
People who are infected or even in some cases just
A reporter asked Biden if the United States would defend Taiwan if we were attacked. Yes, the president answered. That's the comment we made, said Biden, who helped build an international coalition trying to thwart Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We agree with one China policy. We signed onto it and all the intended agreements made from there. But the idea that Taiwan can be taken by force, just taken by force, is just not appropriate, he said. China's Foreign Minister said on Monday, 23rd of May, that the US should not defend Taiwan independence, after US President Joe Biden said that Washington should defend Taiwan militarily if Beijing invaded a self-governed island. No one should underestimate the Chinese people's firm resolution, will be capability to defend the national sovereignty and territorial integrity and should not stand against the 1.4 billion Chinese people, Wang said. We urge the US side to abide by the One China principle and the provisions of the 3 China-US joint communiques, honoured by important commitment on supporting Taiwan independence, exercise, produce and word a deed over Taiwan question, and refrain from sending any wrong signal to Taiwan independence forces, so as avoid seriously damaging the situation across the Taiwan Strait and the China-US relations. China will take resolute actions in safeguarding sovereignty and security interests. We always deliver what we promise, said the spokesman. During the news conference, Biden also made other tough commitments about China's increasingly assertive posture in the region, saying he hoped Russian President Vladimir Putin would pay a price for his invasion of Ukraine, in part of show China what will face if they will invade Taiwan. He's clear in his conviction, and the US should respond to the Chinese military aggression against Taiwan. He's ambitious about what exactly that means, with a comment the US has made to Taiwan's defense, said Daniel Russi, the US diplomat for East Asia during Obama administration. Taiwan's foreign minister thanked Biden for his support. Biden has left himself considerable wiggle room, particularly of one of the question of whether the so-called military environment would mean sending US troops to battle. Meanwhile, the US government has stepped up engagement with Taiwan, continued arms sales to the island, and earlier this month, the State Department quietly undated its webpage describing unofficial ties with Taiwan, removing references from China's position. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday, the 23rd of May, that President Vladimir Putin was the only Russian official he's willing to meet to discuss how to end the war.
Freedom of expression.
Zelensky, addressing by video link an audience at the World Economic Forum in Davos, also said that arranging any talks with Russia was becoming more difficult in light of what he said was evidence of Russian actions against civilians under occupation. Russia denies targeting civilians in what it calls a special operation to degrade Ukraine's military capabilities. The president of the Russian Federation decides it all, said Zelensky through an interpreter. If we are talking about ending this war without him personally, that decision cannot be taken. Zelensky said the discovery of mass killings in areas occupied by Russian troops earlier in the year, particularly outside Kyiv, made it more difficult to arrange talks, and he would rule out any discussions with other officials. I cannot accept any kind of meeting with anyone coming from the Russian Federation but the president, he said. And only in the case when there is one issue on the table, stopping the war, there are no other grounds for any other kind of meeting. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators have held sporadic talks since Russian forces poured into Ukraine at the end of February, but both sides say the talks have stalled. Zelensky told Ukrainian television last week that it was impossible to halt the war without some sort of diplomacy involved. In his remarks to the audience in Davos, Zelensky also said that war came at a huge human price for Ukrainians. The country's forces, he said, were making gains, notably near the second city of Kharkiv, but the bloodiest situation remains in Donbas, where we are losing too many people. He added that any notion of recovering by force the Crimea Peninsula, seized and annexed by Russia in 2014, could cause hundreds of thousands of casualties.
Thank you.
Now let's have a look at the weather and what you can expect for tomorrow. And finally, Vietnam closed out the successful 31st Southeastern Games on Monday the 23rd of May with celebrations and performances in Hanoi.
បាទរូបនេះដូចជារូបប្រភេទកីឡាបាទហើយគាត់កាន់គឺមានរូបប្រភេទកីឡាផ្សេងដែលកំពុងតែលើកយក
The competition began on the 12th of May and saw athletes from 11 member countries of the ASEAN bloc competing in 40 different sporting events. Host nation Vietnam topped the games with 205 gold medals, followed by Thailand and Indonesia with 92 and 69 respectively. Vietnam also successfully defended their men's soccer gold with a 1-0 win over Thailand. During the closing ceremony, the Cambodian national anthem was heard loudly in the Hanoi Indoor Games Gymnasium as Vietnam headed over the SEA Games flag to the delegation from Cambodia, who will host the 2023 competition in Phnom Penh. SEA Games competing Cambodian athletes will return to Phnom Penh this evening, 24th of May, and will be greeted with a celebratory parade to commemorate the achievements of these medalists who have made Cambodia proud. Cambodia's final medal tally for the SEA Games was 9 gold, 13 silver, and 41 bronze. Cambodia won a total of 63 medals, beating its previous record total of 53 medals won in Kuala Lumpur in 1971. Cambodia also beat its previous record of 8 gold medals won in Myanmar in 2013.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup here on the EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, check our website eacnews.asia or search EAC News on Telegram, Smart TV or your favourite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.